Good evening, everybody. Today we have with us Mr. R.D. Naseem, IAS, the Executive Director of the T-Board. For some of you all, he may be a hero who's making a very big difference, who relates to you all the time. For some of you, perhaps he's not, because he is the one who's compelling you to adopt some cultural practices hitherto unheard of. But however, all the stakeholders of this tea industry will definitely agree that he's definitely making a big impact on this fledgling industry. We are very thankful for Mr. Nazim for joining this live program. So welcome. We invited you, the primary reason being to discuss your recent initiative to ban the use of knives all the time. Before we go into it, one would seem that you are a proponent of improving the cultural practice of the tea industry and the manufacturing practices so that this industry will see a better time. Is it so? Why this initiative?
Are you talking about the knife harvesting?
That's right.
No, basically this everywhere in the world, tea is plucked only by the fingers. In fact, even within our country, if someone goes to Assam or Darjeeling, or of course to Sri Lanka or Kenya, if somebody even mentions that there's a small part in South India, that too in Nilgiris district, where there's a small place in the Ooty subdivision called Ebbanad area, where knife is being used, it will be a shock for them. So this is because in this area there has always been a large amount of vegetable cultivation. So people somehow spend all the time and energy on vegetables and give a stepmotherly treatment towards tea. So instead of going and plucking once in 8 days and 10 days and 12 days and a maximum of 15 days during the lean period, they go to the field once in a month or once in 2 months, and then the leaf would have shot up so much. So instead of plucking just 2 leaves and a bud, they start plucking 4 leaves and 5 leaves, and then they can't pluck anymore because it has become hard.
But
they use the knife.
You do believe that by changing the cultural practice, is it going to make a big difference? Because in the past 6 years, we have seen the tea industry really going through some real tough times. Is this the beginning? Do you think it's going to make a big difference into the?
No, we have seen it ourselves. As you're aware, when I took over the tea board for South India 1.5 years back, the cost of tea, made tea, was just 35 and 40 rupees on an average, and people were getting 3 rupees and 4 rupees for the green leaf. We should understand that Nilgiris has the highest number of small growers in the world after Kenya. And in Kenya, they get, in our money, they get about 27 rupees per kilo. In this case, because after the Russian market dried up in the late 90s, suddenly people realized that they do not have a market. So they reduced their standards. It's not as if they were using knife always.
No.
When they realized they're getting less money, then they started using knife. When they started using knife, they started getting even more lesser remuneration. So one led to the other, and that's a vicious cycle. So when I joined, it was 3 rupees and 4 rupees, and you know very well that whatever we did, whether it was taking action against factories, we had closed down close to 25 factories which were not adhering to the minimum standards set under the Prevention of Food Adulteration Act and the international standards for tea, and also various other factories which were actually using adulterants. They were using coffee.
You have done something in the other areas also. Now that we are with the farmers.
No, my point is today that 3 rupees has come to 6 rupees and 7 rupees. Today the minimum rate as of this week is 8 rupees 50 paise. And the cost of tea, the average cost of tea has gone up to 60 rupees and 70 rupees. And 80-90% of people have changed in South India and in Nilgiris. It is only those 10% of that particular area where traditionally, because of this problem of this vegetable cultivation, they still use that sickle, for whom we have given March 10th, that is a few more days from today, as the last date and the cutoff, beyond which we are not going to tolerate. I have written clearly, I've spoken to them, I've gone to more than 12 villages in the last 3 weeks, clearly told them that we are going to adopt a zero tolerance for this. So far, we have only been raiding the factories and the leaf agents and and the transporters and the warehouses. We have taken action. We have confiscated their produce, the made tea, the green leaves. We have buried it. We have burnt tea to show the power. But
you feel
this is the
that
first time we are hitting right at the
farmer level.
Farmer level.
Farmer level. Now, two questions. First is the quality upgradation program that is started by the T-board. It's almost in its fifth year now. Is it so? Fifth year. What do you think is the impact? Do you think there has been an impact? Do you think the quality of manufacture is becoming better now compared to what it was before this program was started?
Okay. Of course, it started 5 years back. But in the first 3 years, it was basically gentle persuasion. Seminars and workshops.
Trying to educate the people.
Educate the people what is to leaf and a bud, how people make tea all over the world, and how we are the only ones who are the small growers, and how we should compete with the big growers and the estates. It's always that. It's only the last 2 years we told.
Especially you're being very humble after you joined.
No.
It has become.
I don't know.
It has become an implementing agency, enforcing agency.
What I'm trying to say is that we are also doing carrot and stick policy. It's not only stick. We also have done a lot of things from self-help groups to societies, lots of things. We also told them that we will, once you improve, we'll give you the incentive. We have incentivized the better quality. But more than
what are the incentives you think people are really appreciating?
Well, as you know, a T-board is basically a development organization. Regulation, licensing, promotion, all these are secondary activities. In promotion, you know that our most important areas are three: replanting, rejuvenation, and quality upgradation and product diversification scheme. Now, all these three schemes we give 25% as subsidy. And in the last few years, the last 2 years that I have joined, we have distributed crores. In fact, by March 31st this year, we would have given 5 crores only on the product upgradation scheme. So, in replanting, we give 68,000 rupees per hectare for, taking off your old plants and putting new ones. Rejuvenation, we give about 25,000 rupees for pruning it, heavy pruning for plants which have completed 25 years, so that the rejuvenation takes place. And thirdly, to all the factories, we have hundreds of factories, including the private bottling factories. We've been giving them money for upgrading their machineries. So these three we have been always doing. But after I took over, we got this fourth program on pruning, where, which has a cultural practice which has to be done once in 4 years. But because of the huge crisis in the last many years, people have just stopped pruning. So we have come up with this new scheme, which is not anywhere else in the country or anywhere in the world. We have told that we'll give 1,500 rupees per acre for pruning, which each one will have to do about 1/4, 25% of their field. And for this we have given them the money, and it has taken off very well. I brought 50 lakhs, and so far I've sanctioned 40 lakhs in it.
Absolutely.
So this is one scheme.
The other carrot probably everybody is appreciating is the educational scheme. How many applications have you received so far? So basically, what is this scheme for those of the people who are almost everybody is aware of it, but what?
No, basically, my argument was that there are small growers of South India who have been suffering in the last 5 years are no better than the laborers of big estates. We reimburse their educational needs when they do any professional course of engineering or medicine or MBA or MCA or even nursing and vocational courses. We reimburse their complete tuition fees and their hostel fees. So my argument was, why don't we give it to our small growers? Because our small growers are no better than the laborers. Technically, they may be owners, but then what has been the remuneration they have been getting in the last few years in that crisis? So today we have 600 applications, and we'll be dispersing close to 3 crore rupees. And this is the only scheme in the country. I don't think any wheat grower, rice grower, potato grower, sugarcane grower, cotton grower, nobody has a scheme. Not even coffee and spices and rubber, which is a part of our own ministry. So only for tea, the small growers are going to get complete reimbursement for the money they want to spend
And
on
how's
the
the
children.
response so far for the scheme?
Fabulous, 600 applications for professional courses already, and
In the first
still
year.
running strong.
Anyway, now that let me exhaust the carrots first, then we'll talk about the rest of the thing. And another initiative of yours, we are told that to introduce a medical insurance scheme. You feel that, in this crisis period, one of the biggest problems with the farmers was getting the right kind of medical attention. This thing are there any initiative on that?
See, I sincerely believe that in a country like India, in the rural areas, because of course tea being an agriculture commodity, I believe that education, medical expenses, and gainful employment continues to be the problems of a people. So, as far as employment is concerned, tea is probably one of the very few crops in the world where you have employment around the year because you have to
Throughout
pluck
the year.
every day. So, and education I spoke to you about. In the school level, we have government schools. We also give money to for schools and for even for hospitals, up to 8 lakh rupees for buildings and for equipment. We have been doing that throughout the span that T-Board has been in existence. So we've got this new scheme for professional courses because no small grower like laborer, nobody wants the children to also go to the to plucking in the sun and the wind and the fog. The third one, which is very important, which actually pushes our poor into indebtedness, is the health. The amount of money that is spent when somebody falls sick. So for this, we are now in the process of tying up with various insurance agencies, and we are working out a very good package by which we'll be a family of 5 will be spending just 500 rupees in a year.
Mhm.
And from the T-Board, we hope to subsidize at least 150 rupees. And over the industrial cooperatives of Government of Tamil Nadu, which already have the captive small growers who give leaves to them every day, from whom they're already cutting 20 rupees every month. So we are trying to put in that money, get in the seed money from our T-Board, and with that we are hoping to cover them up to 30,000 rupees a year for 5 members in the best of hospitals in Coimbatore and Nilgiris. As you're aware, Coimbatore has possibly some of the best hospitals in the country.
In the world.
In fact, in the world. I mean, orthopedics is, people from all over the world throng to Coimbatore for the treatment. Yeah.
That's true.
So that will be one thing that we are coming up.
That's good. And one of the aspects that farmers are not so happy about you is that, I'll elaborate the question. Tea is one of the unique industries in the world where the prices for the raw material, that is the green leaves, is in residual in nature. That is the manufacturers, that is the tea factories. They, after they realize their product, they decide on the price, which is what should go to the farmers. Now, very recently, the Tea Board has developed a formula for price sharing, which itself was this thing. Hardly 2-3 years it happened. You have developed a formula which has become a law of the country. But all the farmers are quite unhappy about it. In Sri Lanka, the farmers get 68-32% ratio. That is 32% the factory gets to keep, and 68 goes to the farmer. But here, for whatever in the wisdom of the Tea Board, it is now 60-40. And you will also agree with me that none of the bottle factories in Nilgiris, or for that matter in South India, follow this, and they much higher price than the 60-40 formula, obviously because this formula does not make sense to anybody, be it the farmers or for this thing. Do you have any idea of, do you believe that this formula is not very reasonable, or if so, is there any plans?
I also agree that the 60-40 by which 60% goes to the farmers is not, it does not really reflect what is happening in the field. I also believe that like in Sri Lanka, we should have 68-32, where 68% will go to the farmers and 32% is kept by the industry. However, as far as Nilgiris and Tamil Nadu is concerned, we have been monitoring this continuously, and almost everywhere people are getting much higher than the 60, because ours is only the minimum. The minimum is we should get 60. So the fact remains that nobody is complaining because everybody is getting more. But it's true, I've also written, I've taken it up with the higher authorities that we should implement 68-32. But for my part, I have promised, and